I'm joined in the FEMS 2021 booth by Professor Linda J Kenney, who is also the first FEMS Ambassador for the United States of America. So would you mind giving me a little introduction to yourself?
Great, thank you very much. I'm currently a principal investigator at the Mechanobiology Institute at the National University of Singapore, and I'm also a professor of biochemistry and molecular biology at the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston.
What is your favorite microbe and why?
Well, as a salmonella researcher, I feel like I should say salmonella, but in thinking about this, I think I have to say Helicobacter pylori. And the reason why is because it was a dramatic discovery, leaving plates in the incubator for many days to see these microaerophilic colonies come up. Sort of a serendipitous discovery, and one where Barry Marshall then ingested to prove that these bacteria could actually cause an ulcer phenotype. And so I think it was a reckoning that, you know, instead of being ulcers arising from type A personality, that they were actually caused by bacteria.
Yeah. And he won a Nobel Prize for that dangerous N=1 experiment, right?
Yes, he did, exactly. So sometimes high risk equals high reward.
Yeah, so I guess not one to try at home, but he did get a very, very substantial prize for it. So
That's
it's
right.
an interesting
Yeah.
tale in science.
Yes, it really is.
What piece of microbiological knowledge should the whole world know, should everybody in the world know about?
I would say wash your hands and be careful in your food preparation.
Okay, so very practical advice. I guess the final thing I'm going to ask you is who, dead or alive, or known or unknown to you personally, is your microbiological hero?
Well, it's hard to choose one, but the one that comes to mind is Agnes Ullmann, who just recently passed. And Philippe Sansonetti wrote a wonderful obituary that was on the FEMS website.
Okay.
And I knew Agnes from the phage meeting days, and I never knew about her escape from the Eastern Bloc in the 50s through a harrowing experience in which she was, escaped in a camper, hidden away with her husband, driven by Jacques Monod.
Okay.
And that story was in a book that I read that compared Albert Camus and Jacques Monod. And then I emailed her after this and I said, Agnes, is this you? And she said, yeah, most people don't know about this part of my life. But it was so interesting to relate this to who she had become. And I think, what a harrowing and
it's fascinating
story. Yeah.
Earlier we were just chatting a bit about the bits we find scary about microbiology. So we were thinking about the antimicrobial crisis and losing the drugs that we have that keep a cosh on all these diseases that we think we take for granted have a way of dealing with. What do you think are the ways in which globally we can work together to try and tackle these kind of challenges?
Well, we have to start with changing in countries that are overusing antibiotics, obviously, really through education and making those drugs less available.
Okay.
So changing the way we use our existing stores. And then, we really need a whole revolutionary approach to combating pathogens apart from the traditional antibiotics.
Okay. So I know it's not your speciality, this particular topic, but I was wondering if you could give me just a little run through of the current research that you're looking at right now.
Okay, so as you mentioned, I've been at the Mechanobiology Institute in Singapore for over the last 10 years. And it's been a revolution in the way that we do science because we're multidisciplinary. And so instead of having my lab and everyone else's lab sort of siloed, everybody is in an open lab, and so your next bench could be somebody who works on worms or is a physicist doing single molecule experiments or a chemist or an engineer. And so it's driven our research in novel ways. We just had a recent paper where we studied biofilms in C. elegans, which we never would have done except that our neighbor was working on C. elegans.
And then you can just jump in and be like, oh, let's have a look here.
Yeah, and you just, your postdocs talk and they have a Friday night experiment, and the next thing you know, you're collaborating.
Okay.
And that's been really fabulous. And then I think we're developing new models, including C. elegans and zebrafish, and now the chick chorioentolic membrane model for looking at infections, and now trying to develop salmonella as an anti-tumor agent.
So that physical space, you think, has quite an impact on then how the research goes around, the way in which the labs are set out?
It was essential, and I can tell you it's a funny story because I was totally opposed to this whole idea, because when I see in the U.S. when we have open labs is that they're unsupervised and your equipment gets wrecked or your reagents disappear, right? And so what made this possible is that we had tremendous core facilities that could oversee making sure that people were trained in tissue culture and that they were good citizens. And that really enabled this whole open lab concept to really work.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, I just want to thank you for joining us on the FEMS 2021 booth. And from approaches to global response to AMR, to your current research, to your favorite microbe and hero, it's been a fascinating talk. So thank you again. And I hope you have a fun time at FEMS 19. And if you want to come to FEMS 2021 in 2 years in Hamburg, then hopefully we can bring you along as well.
I'll definitely be there. And thank you very much. It's been a tremendous opportunity. I've really enjoyed it.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.